Most people pouring honey into their tea have no idea what's actually in the jar. In 2011, investigators bought more than 60 containers of honey in 10 states and sent every sample to a pollen lab at Texas A&M. 76% of the honey bought at ordinary grocery stores had every trace of pollen removed. Not on the farm. In the jar you're squeezing onto toast every morning. In 2023, the European Commission ran its own investigation. 320 honey shipments pulled at the border. 46% were flagged as suspected fakes, cut with rice, wheat, or beet syrup dressed up as honey. Here's what nobody's telling you. This isn't a story about honey secretly being bad for you. It's a story about who's getting rich lying to you, and how that lie has already ended in a federal indictment, guilty pleas, and a company filing for bankruptcy. You're going to recognize some of these names. We're counting down 9 of the biggest offenders from concerning to genuinely stunning, and finishing with the 3 that are actually real. Let's get into it. Number 9. The honey in your drugstore. Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid. Pull a bear-shaped bottle off any of their shelves. When the Texas A&M lab tested honey from all 3 chains, the result wasn't mixed. It wasn't mostly. 100% of the drugstore honey tested came back with 0 pollen. Not most bottles. Every single one. Pollen is the only fingerprint honey has. The one thing that proves where it actually came from. Strip it out, and a jar of syrup boiled down from rice starch looks identical to a jar of wildflower honey collected 3 miles from your house. There's no test you can run in your kitchen that tells the difference. The lab can. You can't. And at these 3 chains, in this study, the lab never found a single jar that passed. Number 8, the big box brands. Walmart's Great Value, Target's Market Pantry, and Naturally Preferred. Across Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart, Target, and H-E-B, 77% of the honey tested had been filtered until the pollen was gone. When investigators called Target's and Walmart's press offices and asked a simple question, who actually packs your honey? Both companies refused to say, and both described the answer as something they consider proprietary. That's not a food safety answer. That's a business answer. You're not allowed to know who's actually behind the label you're trusting. Number 7, the grocery chain house brands. Safeway's own label, Wegmans' own label, and the family of stores owned by Kroger, QFC, Fred Meyer, King Soopers. Same lab, same result. Most of these house brand jars had no pollen left in them. When investigators traced 9 of the failed samples back through customer service, every call from QFC, Fred Meyer, and King Soopers rang through to the same place, Kroger Corporate. And every single one of those calls came back with the identical non-answer. They wouldn't share it because it was proprietary. 3 different store names, 3 different logos on 3 different shelves. One company dodging the same question 3 separate times. Number 6, and this one stings. Honeytree Incorporated makes the honey sold under the Winnie the Pooh label on shelves at Walmart in a jar shaped like a cartoon bear kids recognize before they can read. Lab tests found 0 pollen inside. To the company's credit, when a reporter asked why, nobody stayed quiet. A company representative was straightforward about it. They strain out the pollen because customers expect the honey to look glass clear sitting on the shelf. That's an honest answer to an uncomfortable question. It's also an honest answer that means a product marketed with a children's character on the front has had the one thing that proves it's real, removed on purpose, for looks. Number 5, Sioux Honey Association. The co-op behind Subi, Clover Made, Aunt Sue, and Natural Pure, plus honey packed for a long list of store brands you'd never connect to them. Sioux Honey has been described as America's largest honey supplier. When investigators asked the company to explain its filtration practices, it didn't answer. Not once, not on follow-up. Compare that to Honeytree's straight answer about Winnie the Pooh 2 names ago. Some companies will tell you exactly why the pollen is gone. America's largest honey supplier wouldn't tell you anything at all. Number 4, and here's the one that should really bother you if you've been paying a premium specifically to avoid all of this. Organic honey did better in testing. 71% of the organic samples had their full, expected pollen content well above the grocery store average. But that also means close to 3 in 10 organic jars didn't. The word organic on a honey label tells you something real about how the bees were kept. It tells you nothing about whether the jar was filtered afterward. You can pay double, reach for the label that's supposed to mean trust this one, and still land on a jar that failed the exact same test as the cheap store brand sitting next to it. If you've already gone and checked your own pantry once while watching this, you're about halfway through. What's coming next isn't a filtration problem anymore. It's a federal case. Number 3 isn't a brand to avoid. It's the moment you realize not everyone in this industry is doing the same thing. Golden Heritage Foods packs the Busy Bee brand along with honey for a long list of store and club labels. around 55 million pounds a year. Their quality director drew a hard line for investigators. Ordinary filtration, the kind that strains out wax and bee parts, is standard and expected. Ultra-filtration, the kind that strips out every grain of pollen, is a different thing entirely, and not something the company says it will do or buy. If a shipment of raw honey shows up with zero pollen already in it, they say they walk away from it, because at that point, there's no way to prove where it actually came from. That's the whole industry's problem in one sentence. The pollen isn't disappearing by accident. It's being removed specifically so nobody can prove the honey's origin, which raises the obvious question: what is everyone else trying to hide? Number 2 is the answer. In 2001, the US government found that Chinese honey was being dumped into American markets at below-cost prices, hurting domestic beekeepers, and imposed anti-dumping tariffs worth roughly double the honey's value. Some Chinese honey had also tested positive for a banned antibiotic called chloramphenicol, which in a small percentage of exposed people has been linked to a serious blood disorder. So brokers found a workaround: route the honey through a second country, repackage it there, relabel the origin, strip the pollen so nobody can trace it back to where it actually grew. It's called honey laundering, and it has been documented for more than 2 decades. It isn't hypothetical. In one case, contaminated Chinese honey moved through Canada into a warehouse in Houston and was sold on to J.M. Smuckers, which supplied thousands of cases of it to Ritz-Carlton hotels, and to Sara Lee, which said the honey may have ended up in 500,000 loaves of bread already sitting on store shelves. Neither company laundered anything. Both got fooled by it. That's how good the laundering had gotten. Number 1. In 2011, Grobe Farms Incorporated called itself the world's largest packer of honey. 85 million pounds a year, sold retail under the Miller's brand. When investigators asked the company's CEO whether he required any minimum pollen content from his suppliers, the answer was no. He told them plainly that the company didn't specify pollen content, that they trusted their suppliers, and left it at that. 2 years later, trust wasn't the word federal prosecutors used. In February 2013, the Department of Justice charged Grobe Farms and a Texas company called Honey Holding in an operation agents called Honeygate. A Homeland Security agent had spent a full year working undercover inside Honey Holding as a director of procurement. The government's case: the companies laundered Chinese honey through third countries to dodge an estimated $180 million in tariffs. 5 people pleaded guilty to fraud. Grobe Farms paid a $2 million fine, fired the 2 executives responsible, and 8 months later filed for bankruptcy. It's still described as the largest food fraud case in United States history. And it started with the exact same sentence you've now heard from half the companies on this list: we don't require a minimum, we trust our suppliers. For Grobe Farms, that sentence ended in a federal courtroom. Now that you know what that sentence actually means when a honey company says it, here are the 3 ways to actually get the real thing. Best option number 3: a local beekeeper, a farmer's market, or a co-op. This isn't a brand, it's a format, and it's the only one that came back perfect. In the entire 2011 investigation, every single sample bought at a farmer's market, a co-op, or a natural grocer like Trader Joe's or PCC had its full, expected pollen content. Not most. All of them. You can also just ask the person selling it a direct question and actually get an answer, instead of proprietary. Best option number 2, Burleson's Honey. It's family run, and it built its whole identity around being traceable from the hive to your kitchen. It carries the True Source certified seal, which means an independent third party, not the company itself. Audits the supply chain for origin and authenticity before that seal ever goes on a label. Best option number 1, Dutch Gold. It's sold nationally, including at Walmart, and it's also True Source certified. Proof you don't have to leave a big box store to find a jar that's actually been checked. True Source launched in 2010 and 2011, directly because of scandals like Honeygate. About 30% of the honey sold in North America carries the seal now, and retailers, including Costco, for its Kirkland Signature brand, and Target, for some of its private labels, already require it. The fix already exists. Most people just don't know to look for it. Before you close this, real honey crystallizes. Given enough time at room temperature, the sugar in genuine, minimally processed honey settles out into a cloudy, grainy texture. That's not spoilage, that's proof. If the jar in your pantry has stayed perfectly clear and liquid for months on end, that's the same red flag the lab was checking for. Look for the True Source certified seal, or better yet, find a beekeeper. Ask them a question. See if they actually answer it.